I just want to speak up, make it coffee for the man and avid one. Drop these lunches off and take this. Take her to a place on Dean Street. Posts seem to involve the lifting of heavy bars.
My name's Ben Jacobs. I go under the name Max Tundra sometimes. I live in London. I've done 3 albums. This is my first foray into video game music, and kind of couldn't have wished for a better start on that side of my career. Really, it's quite amazing. It's funny because, you spend your whole life thinking, oh, I want to write pop songs. I want to collaborate with Lady Gaga. I want to have a co-write on a Beyonce track, and then, the thing that kind of breaks through for you is writing a song for a comedy trombone game.
Yeah. It's as much a surprise to me as it is to you, I'm sure. Yeah, so you've made 3 or 4 albums before.
Yeah, so there's 3 Max Tundra, and then the Daphne and Celeste one. Those were recently reissued by Domino on remastered on beautiful coloured vinyl, still available. They're quite old. It's funny, I've been making music for a very long time. Like, my first album came out in 2000, which is an insanely long time ago.
Is that some best friend turned out to be?
Yeah, exactly. Which is a phrase I hope we never say to each other, Dan. Basically since then, I'm just so slow at making music. Basically, like the most recent Max Tundra album was 2008, Parallax Erebehetsu, which is like 14 years ago. So I did a couple of shows this year to promote the reissues, and it just became very apparent that I need to write some new music. So this is the my long tail Limbo track is actually it's the first new Max Tundra composition for several years. And did I ever tell you about the name Long Tail Limbo?
No, not really. I was curious about that.
So do you know about the concept of the long tail?
I know of it as like a business term. Like, something has like a short burst of sales, but then it might have like a long tail.
Somewhat like an online store like Amazon will sell you, Ed Sheeran's album, and it'll sell you like, the best-selling bike light, but it'll also cater for something that you might only get one customer a year buying it, and I don't know if it's something to do with what the graph would look like, but those kind of niche sales are called that's like the long tail. That's kind of where I see myself residing with my music, and its kind of obscureness and relative unpopularity. And so, and also the limbo aspect, like being in a kind of limbo, waiting to write the next album. But also that just the whole phrase sounds like it's a special kind of dance as well. Do the long tail limbo. So yeah, there's a kind of, that's why.
Slightly dreary backstory. Just about like
exactly, yeah, just the sort of best
stagnation,
self-deprecating, yeah, exactly, yeah, just kind of how slow I am at making music.
I was concerned the name was a subtle dig at the trombone game, because again I sent you the first message in like 2019, and then the game didn't go on sale until 2022. So
yes,
that also like a really long tail. The whole Trombone Champ music collaboration started with this poster, actually.
Indeed, yeah. So basically, that picture you guys can see in the background, I first saw that image on a website sort of profiling like lots of vintage posters that you might like, and it was a very small kind of preview sized JPEG, and I immediately thought I'd really like this on my kitchen wall. It's beautiful. So I phoned up the Cat's Eye company, and the guy answered the phone, and I said, oh, would it be possible to obtain print-ready artwork for this really beautiful poster of yours and described it to him, and then he basically just said no and put the phone down on me, which I thought was kind of rude, but there you go. And so then I posted a tweet saying, does anyone know how to convert this low-res JPEG into a beautiful, large, print-ready, poster-size image? And this guy, I don't know if you've heard of him, called Dan, reached out and said, I will make an incredible poster for you if you make a song for my comedy trombone game.
Yeah.
I think he said it doesn't even have to be very good. So, but I accidentally recorded something that is very good.
That would fit
and then
into the game. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so we have the guy at the Cat's Eye Company hanging up on me to thank for this collaboration, because if he had not been rude, then, well, we wouldn't be here today.
One thing I'm really curious about is how you wrote the song and like what your process is. Like, I know sometimes when I write a song, I'll start with like a drum line, or I'll have like a drum part, and that kind of like drives the song. Or sometimes like the melody comes first, or sometimes like a chord progression comes first. So I'm curious how you came up with this one.
So obviously, well, with me, I've always prioritized melody over kind of everything else. Less so on the first album, but even then, it was always very important to me for, you know, songs to be memorable and catchy, because there's a lot of electronic music where that's not the case, and it's just like some kind of just an exercise of some dude being really boring, right?
It was really tonal, right? Or just pure rhythm or pure tone. Yeah,
exactly. And sometimes not even groovy, you know. And so I thought, right, the immediate constraint is writing a monophonic melody line, right? Within the 2-octave span of a trombone. So I think that part came to me first. And I sort of built the chords around it. And there's little things that happen in the chords where it emphasizes what different moods can be achieved when you have the same note but like different kind of bass under it or different chords under it. It kind of I feel like Long Tail Limbo takes you on a very strange kind of emotional journey, which is a nice sort of counterpoint to, you know, perhaps someone's amateurish play along with it to give it a sort of comedic flavor. So it was, I just wanted to do you proud, and it was you know, I was thinking, oh, this is my first video game track as well, so it had to have this kind of driving sort of, you know, propulsive feel, like that sort of make you feel like you're in an amusement arcade.
When you write the melody, are you sitting at a piano, or is it just kind of in your head?
So let me show you my setup. This is my current setup. This is very different to how I worked on the first 3 Max Tundra albums, which were, I was always very anti-laptop back in those days. So I used to have a Commodore Amiga 500 running a tracker software called MED, and that was free on the cover of some magazine, Amiga Format or something. So I would have like a MIDI interface out the back of the Amiga controlling an Akai sampler, Nord Lead 3 synth, various outboard gear, and just, you know, black and white television set, just kind of sat in my bedroom, essentially typing these melodies and songs and chords.
Wow.
And then someone introduced me to Renoise a few years ago, which is essentially like the modern day version of MED, which runs on PC and Mac. And as soon as I had a play around with it and realized that, you know, you're not limited to sort of the 16 MIDI channels that you were with the Amiga and just that polyphony, and that I could also use soft synths and plugins, it was a case of getting the Amiga on eBay that moment. And I kind of haven't looked back really. So let me I'll show you the screen with Long Tail Limbo on it.
Yeah, I'm really curious.
So this is what, and I'm just going to be a bit sort of handheld here, but this is the Renoise tracker screen. You can see that.
The first thing I noticed that it goes top to bottom, which is unusual for when it comes to MIDI. That's it. So everything is there, like all the drums.
So the melody is here in this channel. Then we go, whoa, see my finger? Probably not right.
I can't really see your finger, but that's okay. If you tilt it down a little bit more, there you go.
There you go. That one.
Yeah.
See, when it gets to this black line, it catches the notes. So there's the notes coming in there, see?
Yeah, it's amazing.
And then here is like the sequence on the left, and you can sort of reorder stuff. And you can sort of mute channels. There's the drums are all going on over here.
Wow.
And then you can do more sort of organic effects on it, like make it sort of more humanly played, so everything's really loose and chaotic. And you can change keys, and then there's like sort of plugins and like amp simulation and all sorts of stuff over here. It's just a hell of a lot of fun. And essentially I'm just typing these tunes, right? So there's no, I do have a MIDI keyboard, which in fact, weirdly, we talked about MIDI keyboards, didn't we? That's another point of contact with us, is I was looking for so there's, you know, several times in my life you've come to my rescue. I was looking for a decent like MIDI controller keyboard because basically my whole career I've just been typing songs rather than playing, essentially like formerly on the Amiga keyboard and now on the ThinkPad. And there are instances, usually when I've just been listening to Steely Dan, when I want to sort of, you know, inject a bit of sort of jazz into the proceedings.
Yeah.
And that's when a MIDI controller keyboard comes in handy. And again, I think it was another tweet, wasn't it? And it was like, does anyone know a good MIDI controller keyboard? And I think you just said it kind of doesn't matter what one you get. Cheap and cheerful is fine. It's just kind of essentially what you do with it that counts, right?
I think so. Yeah, I've got like a two-hand one back there that's, you know, you could do like a two-hand melody with. And then like actually a lot of times now when I use like this really tiny one. Really
there you go.
Okay. And it has a really small note range, so you can only do like one hand melodies, but still sometimes it's sometimes it's just a little easier just like to kind of touch the keys, you know, than it is to write it out.
It's perfect for tromboners.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting about the software you use, it seems like it'd be really difficult to get like an image of the song as a whole, you know, like
yes, yeah. It's basically there are just pages, so there'll be like that section on the left with the blocks. You're just deciding which kind of page will play, and you're just basically, it's almost like a spreadsheet.
Yeah,
you're filling up like a bar is a page of this thing. And one of the reasons I love Renoise over, you know, any other thing that people use to make music is just the fact that it's very easy to do very sort of proggy, weird timings and stuff. You can have a bar where there's 57 beats and then the tempo changes to sort of 2/3 time, but that bar's got 42 beats in it. And
I see.
You know, growing up listening to Emerson, Lake and Palmer would do that to a guy. So whereas, what's the one that everyone uses? That music software that everyone uses?
Is it Logic? Logic and Ableton are really big ones.
Ableton, that's the one I'm thinking of. And I feel like Ableton is geared to the sort of four to the floor, which, I mean, ironically, Longtail Limbo is a very sort of, you know, house DJ friendly piece. Don't know if Carl Cox is watching this and maybe wants to put it into his latest set. But if I want, you know, it's very easy to just, you know, do stuff that is just completely unclassifiable in terms of like tempo and time. And I feel like that's not possible with a lot of music software that many people use. So I would recommend if you're having these weird musical ideas and it's not working out, then you should give this Renoise a try. I'm not being paid by them or anything. But, you know, I should be the brand ambassador.
Have been any like albums or people to check out?
Yeah, so as mentioned, Domino recently reissued my 3 LPs. So if you wanted to check those out, if you head to maxtundra.ffm.to/reissues, and you can order yourself a set of those. And there's a relatively new mini album that came out called Remix Tape, which is 8 remixes of Max Tundra tracks by various luminaries, which is a lot of fun as well. And you know, if you ever see me in the street and I'm not at home working on the next Max Tundra album, just kind of harangue me and tell me to get the hell back in front of Renoise and get on with it, because it's, you know, 14 years is a long time, right?
Yeah.
And all we have in that time is Longtail Limbo, pretty much. So.
And Daphne and Celeste.
Oh, and Daphne and Celeste, yeah, exactly. Oh yes, you should definitely check that out as well. I'm extremely proud of that album, and they're incredibly fun to work with, and just phenomenal, wonderful people. If you just head to daphneandceleste.tv, you can see some of the amazing videos we made and order the album and all the rest of that. That was all done on Renoise as well.
Yeah.
Through a stage door just to civilize it. Flipping a cartwheel in a show home as they analyze it. Hiding a mystery under a stone. You and I alone. Talking on the phone. Make a copy for the man in avid one. Drop these lunches up and take this. Take her to a place on Dean Street. Was supposed to seem to involve the lifting up heavy bodies. No one could soft drink. Oh,